man with materials to make explosives and an active January 6 related warrant was arrested by law enforcement in former President Barack Obama's Washington, D.C. neighborhood Thursday. The suspect, identified as 37-year-old Taylor Taranto of Seattle, a January 6 rioter who is being sued by the widow of a D.C. Metropolitan Police officer who died by suicide after an alleged attack involving Taranto and another man inside the Capitol. And the details are scary. Here's what happened. The Secret Service spotted him within blocks of the Obama's home. According to a law enforcement official briefed on the matter, Taranto fled. Secret Service gave chase. He was running toward the Obama home, but was apprehended before reaching it. The reporting out of CBS News. Despite having an open warrant for January 6 charges, officials became more concerned about Taranto when he started making threats towards a public figure on live streams. Taranto's van parked close to where he was arrested. There were multiple weapons and the materials to make some kind of explosive device akin to a Molotov cocktail. But it had not been assembled, according to law enforcement officials familiar with the details. He had said he had explosives, but first responders only found those materials to make them. Now, according to officials, he wasn't in Obama's neighborhood by mistake. This was no accident. Here's what they're relating. According to a senior law enforcement official, Taranto had been in Washington for several months. He'd been seen camping out in his van near the DC jail where many of the January 6 defendants are being held. And some of his live streams were apparently posted while he was in the DC area. How did he get the information on the Obamas? And you have a former president here. He's being watched closely, looked after by Secret Service members. Well, earlier Thursday, a Truth Social account that uses the same screen name that Taranto uses on other social media accounts reposted a Trump post that included what is alleged to be the address of Obama's home in Washington, and noted that the home is near a mosque. Got them surrounded, the Truth Social account wrote. NBC News has also been reviewing Taranto's Telegram account. His post, the last one, was a link to a website touting conspiracy theories about the Obama's home. How scary is this gonna get, folks? There's more. Washington police said in a statement, Taranto was arrested under an outstanding arrest warrant, though the police department did not specify what the warrant was for, and that he has been charged as a fugitive from justice. Officers had the explosives disposal team sweep his van near where he was arrested, the department said, adding that there is no active threat to the community. Again, these details from NBC News. Now, things like this are even more concerning when we have politicians seemingly supporting this kind of violence in the Capitol. Bring her up. Marjorie Taylor Greene promoting her new podcast with a picture of herself pulling up to the Capitol with a high capacity gun. Because that's how we promote new podcasts, apparently. And Rick, I just want to get the initial reaction that someone like this, a fugitive from justice, January 6, ingredients for a Molotov cocktail, is able to even get this close to the former president's DC house.
So a few thoughts. I'm gonna start with two trains of thought. Firstly, something that is funny and then something that's serious. The funny part is these are the dumbest criminals known to man, where they will literally live stream their criminal activities, basically saying like, hey, I'm right here. Come get me. I'm gonna stream on Facebook, I'm gonna stream on YouTube. It's like they go after influencers, which is just so ironic because it's like they are becoming MAGA influencers to put their stake in the MAGA warfield and saying, pick me, look at what I'm doing. So dumbest criminals in the world. On a serious note, what Sharon said, and it's accurate, the former president continues over and over again to use very divisive rhetoric, especially when, and this goes back years with birtherism and whatnot, but basically what we are seeing is, and many people at least on the left will acknowledge this, on the right will pander to it, that the former president is one of the biggest domestic terror threats in the United States of America because of the language that he continually uses. We do not see people that are, profoundly liberal and obviously further to the left of that are sending pipe bombs like Caesar Sayoc did. They are not former Coast Guards who, like Bernie Sanders tweets and then target Matt Gaetz, for example. It just doesn't happen. This is all coming from one side. And the culture wars, everything is just a distraction. All of it is a distraction from them looking in their own house. We just saw Rick Scott a few days ago go to Twitter and say that there's a certain select few people that are not welcome in Florida, socialists. And I saw a tweet from Jamil Hill that replied, but these people are okay. And they were Nazis outside at Disney. So I just want everyone to pay attention to, yes, it's important to stand up for the marginalized at every cost at all times, but also understand that these are all distraction tactics by the right to say we are not looking at the Nazis that support us. We are not looking at the domestic terrorists that are in our own house. Go and argue about LGBTQ rights.
Well, it's just amazing to me, and you're spot on, because when you talk about how, you got to just call it what it is, and you did, right? It seems to be one side who is perpetuating just the majority of this stuff. Yet the other side's accused of indoctrination and grooming and all kinds of things. Why do you think there is such you can't, I don't think, indoctrinate people without there being an appetite, an availability for this. And I think we have to talk about where that is coming from.
I agree. What's interesting is you're talking about indoctrinating kids. One of the things that Taranto loved was, according to himself, homeschooling his kids. This is part of what the Republican playbook is for many years now, and we are seeing it in real time have its own effects, where they are saying we got to get Moms for Liberty in there who are pulling Hitler quotes on their newsletters. We need to dismantle public education and continue to privatize it and play up the boogeyman of teachers. If they have just a book that has one sentence mentioning that there are same-sex parents, it needs to get pulled. There's distrust within the public school system. Let's start homeschooling our kids. And then what happens? I believe it was Mother Jones who had like a really, really well done investigative piece about how Nazis are teaching their kids Nazism, and taking them out of public education is a huge benefactor to themselves.
Wow, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. I couldn't agree more with the way you broke that down, analyzed it, if you will. But how does this kind of dangerous fugitive not find himself in custody until he actually gets to the neighborhood and takes off towards the house? It's in sight. Because every time you mention the Secret Service, and I don't want to disparage anyone, but I keep thinking about, these are the same people who protected Trump, and were those messages? Did we ever recover the messages? Where were those deleted messages? Because they've got to contain explosive information, or else you would have deleted them. All of you deleted them. I just wonder why this guy, this is the powerful arm of the United States government, okay? The police, and yet he's right outside Obama's house. How does it happen?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
It's impossible to say.
It's impossible to say, but let's talk about those three letters, MTG and her podcast, and she's a provocateur. We understand that.
Do we have to talk about her?
Well, we don't have to. But, well, you know what? You're right. We're gonna move on from her and her initials, okay? I'm not gonna give her podcast any kind of boost, and that's what we're doing.
Screw the podcast.